Wow, 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 wow.
Hello, my internet dinosaur loving friends. I'm Thag, and this is Thag's Dino Reviews and Paleopolitics. This is an emergency post. So we'll get to that in just 1 minute. I want to talk about these two Triceratops that I'm using as my segue into the Paleopolitic portion. Anyway, the first one, as you can see here, and the one that was on the stop motion vignette at the start of the show was this is Triceratops horridus from Beast of the Mesozoic. And I got to tell you, before this show, I was not a big fan of articulated dinosaur models. For me, there were just too many seams and this and that and the whole bit. And it just really kind of took away from the whole thing and the flashy paint schemes and everything about it. Well, a friend of mine got this same model, and I happened to go over and look at it. And I got to tell you something. When you see this thing in hand, it really gets a hold of you. And boy, was I wrong. This is one beautiful model. This is the 3-pound Triceratops in the room. And it is absolutely gorgeous, particularly the head sculpt. Now, I've read online, and I saw a couple other reviews that said that they had trouble with the articulation and it was really stiff and all that. Well, I can tell you, mine right out of the box was perfect. I don't know what the other guys are running into, and it could be anything, but this one worked perfectly. Now, the legs aren't as articulated as I wish they were. They don't move quite the way it's hard to make a good natural walking pose with them in stop motion. But if you look at the vignette in the front, it's really very credible. The head, the neck, the front of the torso, even the tail really have a lot of movement. The jaw, the dentary and the predentary move down nicely and go back up. So I was able to make a really good small video there, and that's just to show what you can do with these posable models. And boy, I want to tell you something. This is one gorgeous, gorgeous Triceratops. As a matter of fact, I'm going to, they're a little tough on the budget, no question about it. But if you buy wisely, you will not regret these. And I intend to get. I've got two others on order for the Ceratopsian series, and I really, honestly, I just can't wait to get it. Mr. Silvas has done a wonderful job with these, and I'm sold. I'm a fan of the articulated dinosaurs. All right, the second Triceratops I have here is the PNSO 2016 Triceratops named Doyle. And again, it's Triceratops horridus. And it is just beautiful. Gosh, it's in 1/35th scale. It's got all the detail, all the proper frills, the correct horn. Now, it has been remade again in, I think, 2020 or 21. And I like it, but I just happen to like this particular model with the paint scheme, the detailing, the horns, just a number of things I like about it, including the base. I love bases. So this one fits the bill. And really, I think, I'm not sure of the price right now. I think I paid $59 for it. It's a total bargain. You can't go wrong. Comes in a heavy-duty box with a manual, and I believe it also had a poster with it. But it's just really gorgeous. I love PNSO. I love Nanmu. I love Creative Beasts. I think their stuff is just great. That's the Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian series. But I'm using all of these today as a segue into a serious problem that's really becoming bad. As you know, those of you that know me, my passion, my cause célèbre, is the eradication of the sale of dinosaur skeletons at auction concerns. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that we'll even have an effect on it. We may, but I don't think we'll ever be able to completely get rid of the dinosaur skeletons going to auction. And when I say dinosaur skeletons, I'm talking about the Jurassic and Cretaceous giants from Western North America. And in my opinion, the problem really took off way back in 1997 when Sue, the T-Rex, after a tremendous amount of controversy, sold at auction for a little over $8 million. And at that time, of course, that was considered the end of the world. But a lot of really knowledgeable people looked at that sale, paleontologists included, and said that they hoped that this wasn't the start of a trend that would morph into something much greater than that. Well, I'm here to tell you that that trend has arrived, and it has morphed into something a lot worse. In my opinion, since 2018, we have been on a trajectory that threatens the science of paleontology. It threatens a lot of research, a lot of people that are working in the field, and a lot of just average Joes like myself and my friends. We just see this as a lose-lose situation for us, and I don't know. I'm not sure if we can stop it. I hope we can at least slow it down. But to briefly review, from 2018, okay, there was a Diplodocus skeleton that sold for $1.4 million. And there was an Allosaurus at the same auction that also sold for $1.4 million. Then came another Allosaurus, and that one wound up selling for $2.4 million. And that was the so-called mystery dinosaur with a lot of hoopla and hype and the whole bit. Some paleontologists looked at it and said, yeah, it might be a new species. It had a few different bones. Shape-wise, the bones were different. And it had a couple extra teeth. So right away, this became a big issue. But there were a number of things that bothered me about that. But we'll get back to that in just a minute. Then after that Allosaurus, that would be the third skeleton. Then came the juvenile Tyrannosaurus Rex, which was placed on eBay for $2.95 million. That was the so-called son of Samson, and I have not been able to get definitive information on exactly what the disposition of that sale was. Whether it sold or it didn't sell, or if it did sell, has it been covered up and hidden? We don't really know, and I'm trying to find out. All right, after that, the next major sale that really impacted everything was the 2020 sale of Big John the Triceratops, and hence these Triceratops today that are used as a Segway. Now, again, Big John also had controversy around it. But what really happened was it sold for an absolutely incredible $7.7 million. I mean, if you just track since that point, this is where we're heading. The next skeleton that sold after that was of any consequence was a Gorgosaurus, and that one sold for $6.1 million, and that was just a few months ago, back in July of 2022. Now we have another skeleton, and this one it was claimed to be a full-grown specimen. I've done some checking on it. It's I believe a juvenile iguanodon, and that one I have not been able to get any information on it. So at the end of the show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask 3 or 4 questions. I will have the hyperlink open so that you can email me with your thoughts, good, bad, or indifferent. If you want to subscribe, great. If you don't, I understand. And those questions are going to be on information I need to try to keep this going. But at the moment, the focus I want to make right now is on Big John. Now, let me give you a rough rundown on this, and most of you probably know much better than I exactly what happened. But basically, he was found by Walter Stein on private property. Stein was pretty sure that most of the skeleton was there. They did excavate a lot of the skeleton. However, it came out in large blocks, as is almost always the case. And then he tried to sell it, he claims, for 6 years. I have no reason to doubt that. Sounds reasonable. He claims he tried to sell it to an American museum and had no takers, and finally wound up selling it to the Zoic company, Z-O-I-C, in Italy. And again, you can look all this up online. There's not anything I'm telling you here that's top secret. But there were a few things that bothered me. The Zoic company, and I did look at the skeleton, believe it or not. It was sold in Paris, and it was through the hotel, and if I butcher the name, I'm sorry. I believe the Hotel Drouillot, and it was a auction venue that they had there. Anyway, I looked at the skeleton, and it was beautiful, I must say. The mount was just exceptional. But what happened was they had taken and had the pieces shipped over to the Zoic laboratories, or warehouses, laboratories, research facility, where they went ahead, they finished removing the bones from the matrix, they cleaned and prepped those bones, they 3D printed and cast the missing pieces, they built an armature, they mounted the skeletons, and they did all of this in the unbelievably short time of 6 months. Fantastic. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, so now it goes to auction. Well, a seemingly innocuous event occurred just before that. A paleontologist from the University of Bologna, Italy, sent a student of his to the Zoic laboratories with the express purpose of measuring the skull as it came out to see if in fact it was a record-breaking size. I don't have to tell you, and I'll say it now even though I have no way of, you can't verify it, but I and a couple of my friends did predict that it would be a record breaker. And the reason I say this is because one of the auction people said that prior to the auction, or the discovery of the size of the skull, they said it was no big deal. It was a Triceratops, of which there are in excess of 100 specimens, and very common, and there wasn't going to be any loss of information. Then suddenly the reports come out the skeleton is of record-breaking size. Okay, great. And behind that came a tsunami of promotion. Unbelievable. And all of that culminated in the sale of $7.7 million. Unbelievable. And this is probably the reason why I say since 2018, these skeletons are just simply going to go directly to auction. I don't see how the discipline of paleontology is going to get any. Now, they did get the dueling dinosaurs and that went to North Carolina Natural History Museum, and that is probably going to be really one of the all-time great information producing skeletons, both the Triceratops and either a juvenile T-Rex or a Nanotyrannus. That's unclear right at the moment, but there is a wealth of information that is going to come out of that. So back to our problem. In the United States, 36 states or so, you can, as the landowner, do with the fossils that are found there with whatever you want, however you please to dispose of them, because the surface landowner also owns the fossil rights. That's just simply the law. And I'm not advocating breaking the law, but that law only goes so far with me. I believe that landowners have a moral obligation to help enhance and expand our fossil heritage, and that's it. I'm not stupid. I know that these skeletons are selling for life-altering wealth. There's no question about it. But it's robbing science, and very soon, unless something is done, science is going to be out of the picture. All right, the third Triceratops that I've decided to put on the stand here is, this is from Eofauna, another company that I really like. Now this Triceratops is unnamed. It's a little bit smaller. The model is in 1/35th scale, and the animal itself, the remains were found in Montana in the Hell Creek Formation. And there's not really a lot to say about it. The Museum of the Rockies have the holotype specimen, I believe. The model itself is really nice. I really like Eofauna. That's another company that just simply knows how to build models. I've got all their dinosaur models, and I really hope that they make a lot more in the future, because one, they're very affordable, they're very accurate. I believe these are another one where they actually build the model off of blueprints of the skeleton, and then they add all the known information and data, and they put that into making the sculpt. Another thing too I like about them is they've got a fairly conservative paint job. They don't come out real flashy, but this, as you can see, is pretty nice. There's a few criticisms of it, but quite frankly not enough worth even mentioning here. Suffice to say that as long as Eofauna keeps making dinosaur models, I'll keep buying them. And that's another thing. They're price-wise, they're just unbelievably inexpensive. Okay, anyway, back to the questions I want to ask, because to me these are important questions. If you have an answer, let me know. If you have a way of fact checking it, let me know. If you can't fact check it, also let me know. That's critical. The first question that I have to ask, though, is there anybody out there that knows what Walter Stein was asking of the American museums when he first tried to sell Big John? Big John was still in Matrix, and he claimed for 6 years that he tried to sell it to an American museum and got no takers. And I really wonder what the price was that he was asking. The second question is, how much did Zoic pay Walter Stein for the Triceratops, Big John? Now, that was after 6 years, and there's no question that probably a little bit of frustration set in, and he probably had an agreement with the landowner, who was also named John. That's how I got the nickname Big John. And I think time was probably running out for him when Zoic came along. Now, somebody on YouTube or somewhere I saw that they said it was sold for roughly 150,000 euros. I'm not sure of the exchange rate at that time. That was sometime in 2020, so I don't know exactly what it would be. But if any of you out there know what that price was, let me know. The next question is quite simple. What was the commission to the auction company that sold Big John? And the next question after that is, does anybody out there know the disposition of the juvenile T-Rex Son of Samson? It was on eBay for $2.95 million, and I have never been able to find out where it went, if it did sell, and if it did, what did they pay, and where did it wind up at. Another thing too that I want to interject at this point, because it's a glaring oversight, but as most of you know, a court-mandated liquidation of the T-Rex stand was ordered in late 2020, and I think it sold in 2021 for the absolutely unbelievable price of $31.8 million. Big Stan went to the moon, and so did the auction price. Unbelievable. It's just, I understand that it was a court liquidation sale. I'm not disputing that, but somebody with a whole lot of discretionary income went out there and really turned everything on its head. In the past, I will be honest, I have tended not to be too concerned about the T-Rexes, though, because they were initially the ones that all the private collectors were going after. Everybody for some reason wanted a T-Rex, whether it was to start their own museum or put it in their living room or whatever the reason. T-Rexes held sway for quite a while, particularly after Sue. Okay? Now, all of a sudden, as of 2018, and that's why I keep going back to that, saying that was the line of demarcation, all genre of dinosaurs are up, and it portends poorly for the science, because now, in addition to Triceratops and Iguanodon and any number of duckbills and anything else that they can come up with, they're going to be selling for unbelievable amounts of money. Now, the people that run the Hotel Drouot, if I'm pronouncing it right, auction venue, have also stated that they have a huge number of clientele that are clamoring for dinosaur skeletons that will fit in their living room. Okay, well, that's great. That tells me one thing, and that is that they're looking for, and they will probably find, subadult and juvenile specimens. And if you know anything about paleontology, which I really don't, but I know a little bit, those are the animals that they want. From those come lots of data, period. There's no question about it. And for these auction companies now to actually put out the word that that's what they're looking for, I think is crazy. Nonetheless, at the moment, prices are going to continue to go up. There's no question. Okay, and I have one other question, and that is simply, do you know what the iguanodon specimen that was this last October 20th, also in Paris, does anybody know if it sold, and if it did, how much did it sell for? And is there any chance that the ever-present anonymous buyer decided to let everybody know who they were? Because most of these animals are going to people that don't want their identities known. That's just simply it. Okay, well, I'll stop now. As I said, the next post is going to be on one of the dinosaurs I talked about earlier that was sold also since 2018, and again with a lot of controversy around it, and something happened on that one that I still can't get straight in my head, and I'm going to need your help trying to understand exactly what it was and why it was done the way it was done. It makes no sense to me. Anyway, that's it for this post. Keep slugging away out there if you can. I'm opening up the hyperlink so that you can email me. Let me know what you think. And my final question is, do you think there's a chance that there is no crisis and that I'm all wet and this whole thing is just in my mind and it may work itself out and go away? Anyway, I'm Thag, and I'm yours for the discipline, and I'll catch you on the rebound.